Hello, everyone. Welcome to the newest episode of Sports Hour, the first episode of Sports Hour of the spring semester.
Omaha, set!
I actually caught that one. Let's go.
Let's go!
So we got just about under a half hour to discuss the craziness in football. I think we're recapping a little bit of the end of the season right here. And a little bit of the playoffs. We have mixed feelings about the end of the regular season and the playoffs. And, of course, we're going to preview the Super Bowl between not the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. So, Sarah, we got a little less than a half hour to recap everything here. I honestly think we should start right at the end of the season, so around week 18, week 17. How about we get into the Buffalo Bills first, because they are the local team, and whether you like them or not, they're the most popular team. I think they're the only team in New York. Don't let anybody change your mind on that, because
they are the only New York team.
You have the New Jersey Jets and the New Jersey Giants.
Exactly.
Buffalo's the only Western New York team, only New York team rather. So let's get into them clinching a playoff spot. We all knew that was coming with Josh Allen and that high-powered offense that they had. But let's get into that wild card game, first of all, against the New England Patriots, where they had, I don't even think they punted the ball one time in that game.
They did not. I have a picture saved to the camera roll of my phone. There is 0 punts, 7 touchdowns, a ton of other stats, but there's just 0, 0, 0 of anything bad, I guess, and then 7 touchdowns. It was insane. It was one of the greatest games I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think anyone who, even if you're not a Bills fan, anyone could agree with that. The Bills just put up superior plays all throughout that game, and it was so much fun to watch. I watched it with some distant family members, and it was just, everyone in the whole entire room was just buzzing. Everyone was just so happy to watch it. And
not only did they blow them out 47-17 in the wild card game, but they also beat them in the regular season to pretty much win the division. That was also a big win because they went into New England and they won that game, unlike the regular season game from Buffalo where it was 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and they ended up losing that game, missing a couple field goals that would have been chip shots in regular weather conditions. But it was good to see the Bills jump back on the map and get back into the playoffs and win that division, because they lost to Tampa Bay in a heartbreaker in overtime. I remember that in December. They were coming back from, down 24-3 at halftime, something like that, against Tom Brady. They almost closed it out in overtime. And then they go in and beat the Patriots, and they beat Atlanta in the snow. And it was almost like all the pieces were falling into place for the Bills.
Right. They got the wild card was a home game also, which is huge, because it's the first home playoff game that we've had in years. So that was awesome too. And then we get to the sad part.
So if you're a Bills fan, the season went like this. It started off low because you lost to the Steelers week 1. Then it went all the way up high, and then from the rest of the way it went like this, and then it ended like this. So spoiler alert. But yeah, we got to get into that divisional round because we already said the good news, bad news situation. Started off with the good news. Let's get into the bad news. The Bills travel to if this isn't a rivalry yet, I don't know when it's going to be, because Patrick Mahomes versus the Buffalo Bills, you always know that that's going to be a show. And in the regular season, the Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That was when their defense was looking absolutely terrible. They went into Kansas City and destroyed them prime time on Sunday Night Football.
Gift.
A great birthday gift for Sara, by the way. Go back and check that episode out if you don't believe us. And then they go right back to the same stadium where they won in October, and they had 13 seconds to hold on to a 3-point lead. And in that game, when we were watching it, me and my housemates were watching it, and I saw the Kansas City, after they scored the touchdown to go up by 9 or go up by 2 scores, they missed the extra point. And I said, this is where the Bills are going to jump on that. They missed the extra point, and I'm like, well, this game is the Bills to steal now. And then I think the Chiefs sort of started to lean back a little bit in the fourth quarter, let the Bills go up and score. But those final 5 minutes, There was like 4 possessions, and they all ended in touchdowns.
Yeah, it was that. That was also one of the. We're talking about great games. There was like countless great games all throughout this, the playoffs so far, even before the Super Bowl. And this was one of those games. Obviously, heartbreak for Buffalo after. Still recovering 2 weeks later. But it just was that like you said, those last 5 minutes. It was just fun to watch. It was just back and forth, touchdown, 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 touchdown. I think. And
an old-fashioned shootout,
yeah,
I think, between the two quarterbacks. And, of course, Gabe Davis setting an NFL playoff record, catching 4 touchdown passes from Josh Allen. That's something
Amazing.
that's never been done in a playoff game by a wide receiver. And there have been some great receivers that have come and gone in this league. So to have a guy like Gabe Davis go in there and score 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs and put up those numbers against a great rivalry in the making between these two teams, that's awesome. But 42-36 was the final score in overtime. And there's a lot of controversy about the overtime rules. I honestly think the overtime rules have greatly improved over the years. It used to be a field goal would be a sudden death victory. But I like that they switched it to a touchdown because it's way harder to get than a field goal, especially in a playoff game in overtime when one mistake can cost you your entire season. I don't think you should change the overtime rules. Sara, being the native Bills fan, what do you think they should change the overtime rules?
I mean, obviously, immediately after it happened, you're like, God, like, what is wrong with these overtime rules? This is ridiculous. You know, just basically the game came down to a coin toss. So obviously, that immediate reaction to it is change the overtime rules. But, you know, now 2 weeks away from it, and even Josh himself said that, you know, it's really just all about how you play. Like, yeah, the overtime rules are what they are, but if you play a solid game the whole time, it shouldn't have to matter. You know, every part of the both offense, defense, special teams, everyone should be able to come together and put a stop to prevent that from happening, and then score when you need and win the overtime. So I don't know. It's a tough question. You know, it's a tough question because they did change it from that KC game a couple of years ago, and those were good changes. But you know, here we are. It's, you know, it is what it is, I guess.
And I know that Josh Allen even said, like, if we got the ball first and scored, we wouldn't be complaining.
Exactly.
Like we would be celebrating that. And then you'd probably have Chief fans saying, you know, change the overtime rules.
Yeah, in which, you know, it flipped the next week because the same thing happened with them the following week for the KC game against the Bengals.
And we will definitely get into that, too, because 13 seconds plays a huge role in that game as well to go to the Super Bowl. But that was the Bills season, very up and down. It really wasn't like last year where it was mostly just, you know, climbing, and then they just lost to Kansas City. This season was definitely an emotional roller coaster for Bills fans. Not getting right on the winning side of things in the beginning of the season. Then they won a whole bunch, including a couple shutout victories over the Dolphins, Texans, and then a few losses in a row. And then they finally crawl back, win the division, get in the playoffs, host a playoff game against the Patriots, win that, and then lose to their nemesis in the Kansas City Chiefs. That rivalry will not die because of all the retirements that have happened with NFL quarterbacks. There's no more Tom Brady. There's no more Ben Roethlisberger. There's no more Peyton Manning, no more Phillip Rivers. Aaron Rodgers is contemplating retirement. So almost my entire childhood of quarterbacks that I grew up watching are done now. The NFL is in good hands with guys like Allen, guys like Mahomes, guys like Joey Burrow. I'm very excited for the future of the sport, but this Bills-Chiefs rivalry will probably be close to the dynamic of like Cowboys-Giants or like Bears-Packers, something like that. But that rivalry, I feel like they're going to be battling each other every single year in the playoffs, whether that's the AFC Championship game, the wild card, God forbid, or the AFC divisional game. You're going to be seeing them play. This is not the end of the Bills versus Chiefs saga in the playoffs.
Only the second beginning after last year. So it just keeps, you know, the sparks keep flying, fueling the fire. So we're just going to keep going, and hopefully that Buffalo will be able to come out on top one of these times. I believe they will. I believe they will.
I think the Bills Super Bowl window is open. It's going to be open for the next 4 years at least. Because you see that offense, and let's just say they bring in another wide receiver that would really help out the team. Like, Emmanuel Sanders was good this year. But, John Brown would have been great this year as well. A lot of people tend to forget about him.
Yeah.
But guys like Gabe Davis stepping up, that was awesome.
was
and then the
great.
defense was looking good towards the end of the season. Josh Allen, obviously, trying to not turn the ball over as much as he used to. He did a good job of that later as the season went on. And they look like a complete team. They were 13 seconds away from hosting their first AFC Championship game since 1994.
Right.
So that would have definitely been something. Their window is going to be open for another 4 years. Same with Cincinnati, who we're going to get into in a little bit. But we have to talk about a team that, unfortunately, I'm rooting for. And I don't even have their colors on because it's so embarrassing to talk about. But the Colts, a big win on Christmas Day to go 9-6 on the season, have a 98% chance of going to the playoffs. And then they lose to the Raiders at home in their fan appreciation game, and then they lose to Jacksonville on the road.
They did what we did a little bit earlier.
Except the Bills lost by 3, and the
Yeah.
Colts got blown out by 15.
Yeah.
So, a huge win for the Colts against the Patriots. That's something that they haven't done since 2009. That happened in December. Then the week after, they win Christmas Day in Arizona. And then those last 2 losses, and for myself, I have to blame Carson Wentz because he's the heartbeat of the offense. And whenever you win as a team, you lose as a team. But if it's an offensive thorn that's in the side of the entire team, it falls on the quarterback. He's the heartbeat of the offense. So just a lot of inconsistencies from him. I personally think as a fan they should move on. Realistically, will they? I don't know if they would. But I think for the better of the team, they should move on from a guy like Carson Wentz because he folded in the end of that season.
Right. They were, like you said, like the Christmas Day victory, they were showing a little in the Patriots win. They were showing some promise there. And they're, the playoff chance was a little bit far away, but still, they were showing some growth and at least, like you said, a little bit less inconsistency. And then those last 2 games, it really just kind of solidified that, okay, maybe a change does need to be made here. So we'll have to see what they do in the future.
A lot of interesting names have been popping up for Indy on the quarterback radar. Trading for Russell Wilson is a possibility. Trading for Aaron Rodgers, that's a miracle. Trading for Derek Carr, I've also seen from the Las Vegas Raiders. They have a new coach in Josh McDaniels. Surprised he didn't back out 2 days into signing that contract, by the way. But I think Derek Carr is going to be on the trade block. So, there's some possibilities here. I saw online that Carson Wentz is the 2nd ranked quarterback in odds to start for Tampa Bay in 2022. So if that's worth anything, I don't know. But I like that idea of Wentz going to Tampa Bay. He has more weapons down there. And if he can't thrive down there, then there's no more excuse for the Wentz truthers out there.
Yeah.
Because I thought he had weapons in Philadelphia and wasn't very good. He doesn't have any. I will give him that. Had 0 weapons in Indy. Tried to get something going late in the season. Couldn't get anything off the ground. And if they held on and beat the Raiders or the Jaguars in Week 18, they would have been the 8th team in NFL history to start 0-3 and clinch a playoff spot.
Right.
That would have been a weird category to be in, but as a fan, I'd like to see my team go to the playoffs, and I'd take that any day of the week, of course.
Of course.
Enough talking about that team. I don't even want to wear their colors
Emotional
anymore.
pain for him.
It's definitely a pain. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
We can always get into the crazy Week 18 games, though. The Raiders and the Chargers. This was a game that ended in overtime, and if they both tied, the Pittsburgh Steelers would be eliminated. No, they would be eliminated from playoff contention, and the Raiders and Chargers would both advance. They were 10 seconds away from tying in this game, and then the Chargers called timeout to stop the clock. Like, the Raiders were just going to let it bleed out.
Right.
They're both going to tie, go to the playoffs.
Exactly.
I think Derek Carr was about to kneel it down because they would have had the best odds to go over there and win that game. But I don't know who decided to call timeout on the Chargers. I think it was the defensive coordinator, but just dumb decision, and it knocked them out of the playoffs. A great quarterback like Justin Herbert lost his playoff spot because of a bad call from one of his coaches that has to stain for the Chargers.
Right, absolutely. And the Chargers are one of the teams, pretty consistently throughout the year. We're like, okay, these are definitely playoff contingent team. You know, we're expecting them to be in the playoffs. So it was a huge shock and really stinks. I would not want to be a Chargers fan as much as like the other one, the Bills and the Colts have stung. Like that one was really, must have really stung for the Chargers. So.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They were a contender all season long, had a couple weak performances in the final 2 weeks, similar to Indy, and then were just eliminated from contention there. But that being said, you have to go in the wild card after that. The Bengals, I believe, the Bengals took on the Raiders. They ended up winning that game to advance against Tennessee. The Raiders were very competitive in that game, but Cincinnati was just a little bit better. They went into the divisional round, and the funny thing about the divisional round is that it was a field goal fiasco that whole time. All the away teams won with a final field goal except for the walk-off touchdown against the Bills at home by the Kansas City Chiefs. So every away team got the upset, and including the Bengals and Titans, where Evan McPherson kicked the game-winning field goal. Was it with 0 time left on the clock? They intercepted the ball with 20 seconds to go, kicked the game-winning field goal with no time left. They won that game 19-16. And now Tennessee fans thinking about getting a new quarterback. That's going to be interesting to see. The 49ers and Packers. If I feel bad for an NFL franchise, throw the Colts out the window. I'm throwing the Green Bay Packers in there because with this loss, chances are they're going to lose Aaron Rodgers. They're going to lose Devontae Adams. I'm surprised they haven't lost their head coach yet. A lot of their defensive players are coming off of expiring contracts, and all of their top 3 receivers are all going on the free agency market right now. So they're going to be going through an entire rebuild thanks to Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers. They won that game in the frozen tundra at Lambeau Field, 13-10. The Rams and the Buccaneers. This game, I needed I don't know, what do you call it, what do you call that, like a artificial heart thing? Because the Rams were up 27-3, and the Bucs were coming back.
Ridiculous.
Tom Brady in a 27-3, 28-3 situation obviously is coming back in his final game.
Always happens with Tom Brady.
And then Matt Stafford, though, threw a great pass to Cooper Kupp to put him into field goal range and to win that game 30-27. And what is officially Tom Brady's final game in the NFL. His last game in New England ended on a pick 6 thrown to his former teammate, which was fantastic. And his last game as a Buck was a playoff loss at home. So I know he has 7 rings, and I know he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but I still say to this day he should have retired after he came back and beat Atlanta down 28-3. That would have been a great way to go out. Like, last hurrah, Tom Brady's done. He came back down 25 points. But the Rams, obviously going to the Super Bowl now, defeating the current Super Bowl champs in the Tampa Bay Bucks. Already went over the Bills and Chiefs. We don't need to relive that memory again. And then we get to the conference championship. So when I mentioned 13 seconds into overtime, I hope you were following along in that Chiefs game, because 13 seconds into OT, hey, the Chiefs get the ball to start again. We're all thinking Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. It's a lock, right? 13 seconds in, Patrick Mahomes throws an interception towards the sideline that set up the Bengals in perfect field position to go down and kick the game-winning field goal with no one other than the second-round rookie kicker, Evan the Leg McPherson, who will be Super Bowl MVP once we get into our predictions at the end of this. Spoiler alert, I'm pulling for the Cincinnati Bengals. But they beat the Chiefs in this one 27-24 in a game where the Chiefs were winning 21-3.
I don't know. After this win, I just feel so indifferent about it, because obviously, as a Bills fan, we felt like we should have already beaten the Chiefs and taken on the Bengals, and then to have the Chiefs just lose like the next week. I don't know. Like, I was obviously thrilled, because now the Chiefs are our mortal enemy as a Bills fan. But,
absolutely, good way to put it.
Basically, they're the new Patriots for us. So it was like, it stung a little, and like even Josh Allen, I remember seeing his tweet where he was just pain. Period. I'm like, you summed it up perfectly, Josh. So that's basically how it felt, but at the same time, it is like, yay, the Chiefs can't have a chance to win again. So I'm happy for the Bengals, but like I said, I feel indifferent about it because it felt like we should have been there. I feel like we could have. I don't know. The Chiefs, I feel like have a track record of kind of doing this. They seem like they're gonna take away the win, and then something happens at the end.
There are a lot of bark but don't bite.
Yeah.
I feel like they can get to the AFC Championship game, they can get to the Super Bowl, but during crunch time when it really matters, are they going to pull through? They did against the Bills, but the AFC Championship game, everything's on the line, and Patrick Mahomes throws a pass in double coverage in overtime. That was something so uncharacteristic of him.
Yeah.
But immediately after this game, I naturally thought to myself, how would the Bills-Bengals game that would take place in Orchard Park, what would the outcome of that game look like? Would that game go to overtime? Would the Bengals still win? Would the Bills have an edge? Like, the Chiefs had home field advantage and still lost in overtime to Cincinnati. Would you be confident that the Bills would go in and handily take care of the Cincinnati Bengals if that were the case?
I feel like, I don't know, looking at the season, I feel like the Bills played a little bit better at home than the Chiefs did at home. I don't know, that's just my opinion. And so, like, the Bills definitely perform. You typically, like, with some exceptions, obviously, the first Kansas City game earlier in the season, I feel like the Bills definitely play better at home because they have all the fans to their advantage, and I think
they're way more in control at home.
Right, exactly.
Like, when they have the ball because the crowd is silent, and then Josh Allen is a game manager, he's a clock manager, he knows how to, he's really good at time management. The Bills at home are very calm, cool, and collected. The Chiefs looked like they were on edge, like the whole game. Even they were up by 20, or they were up by 18, up 21-3. They still looked really frantic. Almost they didn't look like themselves, and something was going wrong, despite the 18-point lead. But
I agree.
Cincy took care of every single mistake that they had in that game.
Yeah,
and now they're going to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1989 with Boomer Esiason. So that's definitely going to be a cool game to see. Then on the NFC side of things, the 49ers. What is it with Kyle Shanahan and blowing fourth quarter leads? I don't know what it is, but I pulled for the Niners because I wanted to see the 49ers-Bengals rematch from 1989. Of course, I wanted to see that. Joe Montana versus Boomer Esiason. Now with Jimmy Garoppolo and Joe Burrow, that would have been cool.
It would have been cool.
But Rams, like the Cincinnati Bengals, took care of every single mistake that the 49ers made. And they won this game, again by 3, 20-17. And for the first time in his career, Matt Stafford is going to a Super Bowl, and Aaron Donald's going to a Super Bowl, and Odell Beckham Jr. is going to a Super Bowl. In this game, though, Sean McVay, they kept panning to him, and then his dad was in the crowd, too, the coach of the Rams. And both of them had the same expression the whole time. They're like, it's all right, we're only down by 10 here in the third quarter. We're going to come back and win this game anyway.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. They were down 17-7, scored 13 unanswered, won the game, took care of all the mistakes, and now the Rams are going to the Super Bowl. So this is the first Super Bowl in a long time without hearing the names Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. It feels nice.
I'm going to enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
But San Francisco has to feel a little bit snake-bitten because they've been in this situation before.
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl a couple years ago against the Chiefs, that took place in Miami, they had a 10-point lead with 8 minutes to go in the fourth, 8 minutes away from winning their 6th or 7th Super Bowl, and then they lost that one. So that brings us into our Super Bowl predictions. Who do you got? Bengals and the Rams. Technically, it's taking place in LA, but the Bengals are the home team, so I don't know how that was decided.
Right. I don't know. Rules, they're funny, but
very funny.
I don't know. Who do I want? I feel like throughout the season, I think I might go with the Rams.
Do you have a score prediction at all?
I'll say I feel like it's going to be another close one. We've had a lot of there's been so many games that have been 3 points difference. I'm going to go 34-31 Rams.
Nice. High-scoring game. I'm going the opposite, though. I'm saying Cincinnati wins their first Super Bowl in franchise history and wins that one 27-20.
Okay.
I think that would be a great game. I think Joe Burrow will do great things. And Jamar Chase is going to score a touchdown, of course, because he's probably the most flashy rookie receiver in the league this year. And then you have Evan McPherson kicking the ball, but you can't deny how great Matthew Stafford is, how great Cam Akers is, and Odell Beckham and Aaron Donald, all those players on that team. So I hope we recapped literally everything from the past break that we missed, including the Week 18, Week 17, the conference championships, and the whole deal. So, Sara, thank you for coming on. We will see you before the night ends, actually, to cover the Olympics. But coming up in approximately 2 minutes, we're going to have Topher to talk a little bit about college basketball when we return. So stay tuned.
We're ready for you.
Pneumococcal.
If you're 65 or older, like me, you're at greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia, even if you're healthy.
People 65 plus are over 10 times more likely to land in the hospital for pneumococcal pneumonia than those 18 to 49. And it's important we all do what we can to stay healthy. So, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination.
Hope. Where are you hiding? I search for you in the seconds, the minutes of each and every day. Hear me as I call out to you. Take my hand. Lift me up as I lift up others. Welcome me home, father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter. Hear us now. Alone we stood, divided we fell. No longer. Now we choose to make the connection. Our new mission lies within. Visit maketheconnection.net to learn more.
16 is such a significant age. I promise to help protect my eldest daughter during this exciting time in her life. Teens are at an increased risk for meningococcal disease, a rare, potentially deadly bacterial infection. But half haven't received the CDC recommended second dose of the MenACWY vaccine at 16. I want to help change that. Take your shot against meningitis. Talk to your teen's doctor about the MenACWY vaccine and ask about MenB. Visit the16vaccine.org.
Well, welcome back to Sports Hour. We got Topher here to join me and some breaking news from the NCAA basketball front. A huge upset. You came booking in here to tell me what the score was. Why don't you tell everyone what just happened?
Hey, I don't care. I will always love NCAA more than I will like NBA because stuff like this happens. SEC leader right now and just #1 seed Auburn lost to Arkansas, which is like Arkansas is not a bad team by any means. But they should not have been beating Auburn.
Listen, they're not even ranked.
Exactly.
Okay? Arkansas is not even ranked. They ended up beating the #1 seed in the top 25, 80-76. So you can argue with us all you want. We honestly think the NCAA is the best source of basketball coverage. I much prefer 20-minute halves, 2 20-minute halves over 4 12-minute quarters any day of the week. Way more upsets occur. This is what's going to make March Madness super, super special. It starts with an upset, and then, I mean, did anybody see this coming, though?
I don't think so. I mean, there's going to be guys who bet on it, obviously. That'll be like, oh yeah, for sure there was reasons. But realistically, Auburn should have beat them. Just up outright. They have the better scores, and realistically this year they've been playing nuts defense.
Yeah.
And Arkansas's #1 thing is 3-point shooting. So the matchup was just not in Arkansas's favor. I didn't see how the game played out, so I don't know exactly what happened. But just on paper, they should have lost by double digits. I think they were probably favored by more than double digits.
Now with Auburn though, this is kind of a team that came out of the woodwork. They were on a 19-game win streak. When you think of
Was
March
this game
Madness,
home or away?
I think it was. I can check right
because
now.
they were 12-0 at home.
No, they were on the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're still undefeated at home. That was going to be interesting to me.
But I mean, when you think of March Madness, the top teams, you automatically think of Gonzaga and teams like Duke, teams that are always in there. UCLA has fallen all the way down to 12th.
Yeah.
Purdue was in first for a little while, but they're in third now picking up their slack on a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Gonzaga will most likely take that first spot away, I would think, by default.
It'll be interesting there because Auburn has some big wins, and I think they've beaten. I think comparative like head-to-head like matchups, like not head-to-head, but like same teams. I think Auburn has an advantage, and they have 3 more wins. So like it'll be interesting. I think they will give it to Gonzaga, but it'll be interesting if they keep Auburn as number 1 because I mean there's still 2 lost teams still now.
And if Auburn is not in number 1 anymore, how far do you think they drop? I don't think they drop too far, but the fact that they lost to an unranked team, that might set them back past the top 5. We don't really know. But they do have 3 games in hand, so they have played 3 extra games than most of these teams on here. Looking down the line here, I don't know if it's updated yet, or if it is, I apologize for the inaccurate stats, but we have Auburn at 1, Gonzaga at 2, Purdue at 3, Arizona at 4, Kentucky at 5. That's a very interesting top 5, especially talking about March Madness, because number 1, where's Kansas? They're not even in the top 5.
Yep.
Where is UCLA? They have fallen off. Where is Villanova? They're in 15.
I was saying Villanova. I'm not super surprised about Villanova dropping, just because like they've lost their star power over the past 3 or 4 years ago when they won it. Like that team was just stacked head to toe. Like they were winning it. There was no, when they hit the buzzer beater, it was nuts. There was no doubt that team was gonna be in there. Gonzaga, not super surprised. They still have Drew Timme. They still have a lot of the returning guys. Purdue's thing is that they have the best player in the country right now. They have Brandon Ivey. He is carrying this team to victory. They were in a scare against Ohio State about 2 weeks ago, and he just nailed the winner. They were down by, Ohio State was down by 20. They came back. Brandon Ivey just shattered dreams.
Yep.
It's crazy. I hate Purdue as a Michigan State fan, but I love watching Purdue because Brandon Ivey is so exciting to watch.
Well, you have to feel happy for them in a sense that, their other team that they're rivals with, that a lot of Indiana fans are, butt heads over. It's always the Purdue-Indiana rivalry.
Yeah, for sure.
Indiana is not good at all this year.
Yeah, no,
They have a losing record, but it's nice to see that they have a decent team to watch there in Central Indiana now in Purdue. Normally, you don't really see them crack the top 10 in basketball, so this is kind of an anomaly. This is kind of a year that they're just going to soak it in and just ride out the rest of the way. See what they're going to do in March Madness. They were my early pick to win March Madness as an underdog
when they
were number 2 or number 1 up there.
Right, for sure.
But speaking of the top 25, we're going back to this upset again. Arkansas is now 19-5. This has to put them in the top 25 rankings, dethroning the number 1 seed. And you just got to think, where would they land? Top 15, you think? Maybe top 20?
It probably depends. So, let's say, if USC loses, their next game, probably knocks them out. If, you're going to keep teams like Murray State because they're 22-2. They have the same record as Auburn. They have the same record as Gonzaga. If they keep winning, also, shout out to Murray State because that's where my mom lives, is in Murray. So that's sweet. I love watching them. I've been to 3 of their basketball games, so anytime I see them rank, it's sick. And they won they won a game in the tournament last year. Also, shout out Ja Morant, GOAT in the NBA right now.
Legend.
So that's crazy. No, I think so. If they're gonna bump a team, obviously, because if it keeps them bumped up, they're gonna knock a team out like USC. They're gonna knock a team out like Tennessee. There's 6 lost teams. Tennessee's undefeated at home, but they still have 6 losses. Xavier, Connecticut are on that border. Obviously, they might get kicked out. It's going to be harder for them to justify the teams like St. Mary's or Murray State that just keep winning, even if they are in that smaller conference, that outside Power 5. So those are the teams you like seeing ranked, but it's still can you argue to bump them because strength of schedule?
Yeah, and there's a lot of fans that really they look at the top 25 and they really just don't care. Yeah. They like to look at the future and what March Madness is going to look like. So the round of 32, that's when it truly matters. In the middle of March into early April, when you get to the Elite 8, when you get to the round of 16, that's what they really look for right there. And if you're a fan of upsets, a game last night, or a couple upsets last night actually.
Duke. I love watching
Virginia beating Duke by a point. That was insane. On the road, by the way. And then the 20th seed Texas Longhorns defeating the 8th seed Kansas Jayhawks by 3. I thought that Texas was good in the beginning of the year. I didn't know how long they were going to last in that spot.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what, 20 sounds about right. But now when they upset a team like Kansas, who was on top of the world just a year ago,
right?
It really makes me think, are they a 20th ranked team? Are they top 15? Would they go far in the March Madness if given the chance? This is why college basketball this year is going to be super interesting to see once we get to March. There is no given day.
Absolutely.
I mean, if anyone's going to predict a perfect bracket, I want to meet you because that's going to be an insane thing that would happen if someone got a perfect bracket this year with all the upsets going on in the regular season.
The NCAA this year is wild, and it literally just statistically will never happen. I just don't think there's a way it'll ever happen when there are teams like Marquette, St. Mary's, Murray State, and Xavier in the top 25.
Right.
Like, you just never know what's going to happen on any given year. Like, yes, you can always guess that teams like Gonzaga will make the Elite Eight at the minimum. They're going to more than likely make the Final Four.
It's pretty much a given,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, those teams, they're well coached. They have the players. They have Drew Timme, who carried that team to the championship game last year.
Yeah.
Like, they have those players, but then you have teams like Providence, who are 11th right now. Like, they could make the Final Four, and everyone would be like, what the heck?
It would be like a Loyola Chicago thing.
Yeah.
Everyone was counting them out just a year ago. And then in 2019 and 18 as well, they were making a push to the final or to the Elite Eight and the Final Four. What year did they get in the Final Four? Was it last year?
Final Four was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And now they're like arguably a ranked team. Like, I'm pretty sure they're like 27th right now. So they go from like no one knowing who they are, and they're like a 15 seed making the Final Four, to arguably being ranked every year.
And it's about getting hot at the right time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like more just like any other sport. If you carry the momentum going into the tournament round, going into the playoffs, postseason, whatever have you, like, that is when teams are going to be, like, oh wow, these guys are legit. It's going to be tough to stop them. They're on a hot streak. So is maybe a team like Arkansas and a dark horse underdog team you can see, because they're going to be taking that confidence into the rest of the season, of the regular season.
Remember, we have like a month. We have like a month until like seeding starts. So like, how many more games do each team play? Maybe like six
or seven.
I think
I
so.
say.
Yeah, so that they can just swing that. Like, it's insane. I'm so excited. I'm actually so excited for March Madness this year.
No, man, it's going to be great to see. I'm going to be filling out my bracket, especially early this year. Topher, thanks for coming on. Thank you for watching Upset City here. We're going to have Brent come on and talk a little bit about the NHL All-Star Game and a little bit of the NHL standings when we return. We will see you in approximately 2 minutes.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. Selective service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service. We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. Selective Service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
Happy to have Brent join us to talk a little bit about the NHL All-Star Game and the NHL standings as a whole. So the All-Star Game just wrapped up. A lot of interesting events, a lot of great skill competition that took place in Las Vegas. a lot of casino themes. I felt like it was a little Las Vegas overload.
Yeah, a little bit.
But what were your overall thoughts on the skills competition first before we get into the actual games?
I will say for the skills competition, I do like what they did this year. I mean, changing it up a little bit. I mean, some of the new competitions were a little weird, as you said, like the Vegas theme. The blackjack and them on the water and doing the face-off thing. I mean, some of it was just a little weird. It was a little new, it was a little weird, but I like how they did it. I like how they set it up. The skills competition, you know, the fastest skater, all that. That's always going to be exciting to watch. I was surprised by some of the winners, though, I will say.
Fastest skater was the one, for sure. Jordan Kyrou, like, who saw that coming? From the St. Louis Blues, Jordan Kyrou won fastest skater. And, you know, just seeing that, can you imagine just, like, sitting in the front row, watching him go by and seeing how fast they truly go? Like, you saw on the camera that was following him, and the cameramen were great, because you could totally tell that they were on skates following them around all the time. So they were troopers that for all those nights. But the fact that he was going up against all these other all-stars pretty much was like an unnamed hero. Like, nobody's really thought that Jordan Kyrou would be the guy to win fastest skater, but that's great for St. Louis and St. Louis Blues fans as a whole, because they know that they have quite the speedster now.
Yeah, it's true. And it's crazy how they timed the whole fastest skater thing too, and how he won by, I forgot what the exact time was, but it was only like a point couple seconds off.
Yeah, man, he was flying either way.
Oh yeah, totally flying. And then shootout competition,
that's
by
the best.
far my favorite all-star hockey competition ever. I mean, watching the players do random stuff and cool tricks and being hilarious and seeing what they can really do with their talent's always something interesting to see. And one of the things that stood out to me in the shootout was Zegras. I mean, that was just, I don't have words for that.
I mean, absolute, you can tell he's going to be something special in this league if he isn't already, right? So you have guys like Zegras, and the funny thing that I saw about like the shootout competition was like you can see who the vets were that were there, that have been there before, just walking in, taking shots. And then the rookies are the ones that make the moves, or the young guys are the ones that walk in on the goalie and make the crazy move. So that's what I liked. And then the old vet defensemen that would just come in and take a clapper from the point. Yeah. Those are great to see. Was there anyone that really stood out to you other than Zegras that you saw? I mean, I loved seeing Darlene out there for the first time, being a Sabres fan.
Darlene being out there was something that was incredible to see. I mean, as a Sabres Buffalo fan, I will say I was a little bit shocked for Darlene to get picked, but
especially from his performance in the beginning of the season.
From his consistency.
I'm right there with you, bro.
At the same time, those last couple games before going into the weekend, towards the end of December, he did pick it up. He did have some clutch moments for the Sabres in some of those games. So at the end of the day, shout out Darlene, respectable. Seeing him in the All-Star weekend was great as a Buffalo fan. His goal that he scored in the game, that breakaway, the little 5-hole, or I don't even know if it went 5-hole. I think it went on the side of his pad, but either way, seeing him out there as a Buffalo fan was definitely a good feeling.
And then I'm not really sure who pulled the Kucherov move. Who did that in the shootout competition where he pushed it with the stick, waved over it, and it went right through the goalie's legs? That was awesome to see. I don't remember who shot that, but
I forgot who that was.
I thought that was the best goal in the shootout, of course, because we all remember when Kucherov did that to Robin Lehner against the Sabres in a shootout. I mean, let's just be honest. Brent and I could score on Robin Lehner in a shootout because that dude was atrocious one-on-one. We can both score on the shootout. But other than that, that was just a skill competition. And, they had most accurate shot, hardest shot, fastest skater. That was always fun to watch. And then you had the games. And were you really shocked by any of the outcomes? I was mostly watching for the skill competition.
Yeah.
I already know how good these players are. It doesn't really matter to me which division wins, like Metropolitan or Atlantic. It really doesn't matter to me. But it's always great seeing the best players out there in one setting, and having them show their stuff, because it's not every day where you get to see something like this. every now and then you'll have guys like Ovi come into your city and show like the fans how good he really is. But for the people in Las Vegas, that is like a complete show for a new hockey fan that wants to get into it and like needs to have role models to look up to with like hockey players. That is a perfect setting for that. And the All-Star game, it go on the All-Star break for like 9 days or something, and now we're finally back to the regular NHL.
Yep.
And I know that the Sabres are back in action on February 10th.
Thursday. Yep.
They're hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets, which is going to be a good game, and then they face against the Montreal Canadiens on the road. Speaking of the Columbus Blue Jackets, you told me when we were off air that they're doing really something special. I think it's their first jersey retirement
Rick Nash.
in their team's history, and that's no one other than Rick Nash.
I mean, talking about it off air, I mean, well-deserved. Rick Nash, I mean, you look at the Columbus franchise, I mean, they've had some good seasons. They missed the playoffs, came short a few times, had some good ups and downs, but at the end of the day, in my mind, there's no better Columbus Blue Jackets player as of right now than Rick Nash.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did for that team while he was there, I mean, he stood out. He stood out in the league. He stood out to everybody. And, I mean, if he wasn't on Columbus, who knows how good Columbus actually would have been, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely well-deserved for them to retire his jersey in the rafters.
Yeah, when they brought in Rick Nash, that was kind of the era where they also brought in Sergei Fedorov. So they had Nash and Fedorov. That was pretty much what got the Columbus Blue Jackets on the map. And then they had guys like Adam Foote too, who were amazing for the team before he was dealt to Colorado. That was what kind of got him off the map. And then you saw guys in that organization come in like Cam Atkinson, show their stuff, who was probably one of the best, probably the second or third best offensive player on that team. They were a new expansion team in the mid-'90s, I believe, came into Columbus. They didn't really know how hockey in Ohio would be, but they seemed to get a decent crowd there every single game. And I think a lot of that credit goes to a guy like Rick Nash because he's the one that built the foundation of that team as a whole.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree on that one. And talking about the Sabres, I mean, the last time we were here, it was, like in late November, so they've played a decent amount of games.
Not much has changed,
not much has changed. I mean, I think their record, the last time we were here, they were like 8-12, and I don't know, like 3 or 4 or something.
Yeah.
Now they're sitting at 14, 24, and 7. 6th in our division out of 8. I mean, Ottawa and Montreal are behind us, but I mean, one win short of Detroit. If we win Thursday and Detroit loses, then we'll hop in the 5th place spot. But with adding Tuck, I mean,
and obviously Peyton Krebs too.
Krebs, yeah. I think for the future, because I remember we talked about this last time, the future for the Sabres going down line in the few years, I think we'll be finally heading towards the right direction.
And this developmental team in Rochester is like one that we've never really seen before, except for maybe 2006, because the Sabres are letting their young prospects develop. This is something that we haven't seen, and could be a reason why the Sabres players don't, or the Sabres draft picks don't really pan out to be much, because the Sabres have a tendency to rush players into the organization, rush them into the NHL too early before they're ready. Guys like Casey Middlestat, and you see what's happened to him. He's constantly getting injured.
Going back and forth.
Going to rehab, going to Rochester, and then finally coming back to Buffalo. You had guys like Victor Olofsson, who I honestly think weren't ready to go yet. And they brought him into a situation where they were already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Yep. And after they won the 10-game win, like the 10 games in a row, they brought him in March when playoffs were pretty much a dream at that point. And they really didn't need to put him in that situation. And now they're letting guys like Jack Quinn and Peyton Krebs and JJ Peterka, letting them grow in Rochester and then calling them up when they're ready. We've seen them come up before. That's just due to all the COVID stuff and all the injuries. The Sabres literally have no one else to replace them, so naturally they are going to get called up, but expect to see them in Rochester maybe for another year. And Owen Power, though, we're going to see him in Rochester next year, and he's going to do great things. Isaac Rosen, the Swedish draft pick from 2021, we're going to see him most likely go to Rochester next year. So the future and the depth on paper is bright. But knowing this team, they have to manage it the right way because you have so much talent here. And the last time you had great talent in Rochester, you had guys like Roy, Vanek, Miller, Pominville, MacArthur, Stafford, and they all panned out to go, with those Lindy Ruff teams that got into the playoffs. Unfortunately, never won a Stanley Cup, but they were consistently getting to the playoffs during those years. You kind of want to see the same result in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, whatever season they can get truly an open window for a Stanley Cup run.
And for Buffalo fans in particular, I mean, who wouldn't love to see the Bills win a Super Bowl and then go ahead and watch the Sabres go, not even win the Stanley Cup, but just go in playoffs? I mean, it's been, I don't know what.
11 years. This is the 11th year.
Yeah, 11th year, short of playoffs. I mean, we got to get there at some point. At some point, it's got to happen. And with what you said, Owen Power and
Isaac Rosen,
Michigan's goalie, I can't remember his name
you have Eric Portillo.
Yeah.
And you also have Devin Levi from Northeastern University, who are two very, very flashy goalies. The Michigan State goalie, though, has tied the most shutouts in his college career as Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller was also a Michigan State grad. They had the same amount of shutouts and the same amount of games. So is he the next Ryan Miller? No one really knows, but the goalie depth on this team in the future is going to be great to see Portillo and Devin Levi. And then you never know, maybe Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, maybe you can deal him in a trade or something like that, and then you can get stuff for him. But, I want to see, before we wrap up here, I kind of want to see a revamp of the offense. If that means trading Skinner, trading Oposo, trading Olsen, I think your only two untouchables on the active roster right now are Rasmus Dahlin and Tage Thompson.
I mean, that's a hot take. I mean,
and Alex Tuck, of course, that should go without saying because he was traded in the Eichel trade. That goes without
Tuck
saying.
still has some time. I mean, he's only played 13 games and only has 13 points. No big deal or
point
anything.
Per game.
But yeah, I mean, sooner or later he'll be in our top 3 point leaders, no doubt. And Dahlin, he's, I think, our second or third point leader right now on the team as a defenseman. And being that overall, I mean, that's just insane. So, yeah, I think doing a little rebuilding the offense a little bit, and then with the goalies coming in and
our depth in
Rochester, I think for the next couple of years, it's gonna be a bright future for the Sabres, hopefully.
Well, there's always hope. So, Brent, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
Real quick, for about a little 5-minute segment, we're gonna have Sara come on to talk a little bit about the Winter Olympics in Beijing. So stay tuned.
Ready for you.
Pneumococcal. If you're 65 or older, like me, you're at greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia, even if you're healthy.
People 65 plus are over 10 times more likely to land in the hospital for pneumococcal pneumonia than those 18 to 49. And it's important we all do what we can to stay healthy. So, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination.
Hope. Where are you hiding? I search for you in the seconds, the minutes of each and every day. Hear me as I call out to you. Take my hand. Lift me up as I lift up others. Welcome me home, Father, Mother, Sister, brother, son, daughter. Hear us now. Alone we stood, divided we fell. No longer. Now we choose to make the connection. Our new mission lies within. Visit maketheconnection.net to learn more.
16 is such a significant age. I promise to help protect my eldest daughter during this exciting time in her life. Teens are at an increased risk for meningococcal disease, a rare, potentially deadly bacterial infection. But half haven't received the CDC-recommended second dose of the MenACWY vaccine at 16. I want to help change that. Take your shot against meningitis. Talk to your teen's doctor about the Men ACWY vaccine and ask about Men B. Visit the16vaccine.org.
4 years at least. I'm not sure if Kevin previously covered this, but for the first time in 4 years, we're doing the Winter Olympics. And Sarah, welcome back. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. Long time no see, right?
But yeah, so the Winter Olympics are definitely in full swing right now. A lot of medals have already been won. It seems like every time I turn on the TV, all I see is curling, which is unfortunate because I want to see some Shaun White. I want to see some skiing.
Coming up.
The biathlon's pretty sweet, though. I think we can all agree on that. What is it, shooting, skiing, and doing something else?
Yeah, and just like the cross country. Oh yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
The crit skiing. There's one other thing in there. I can't remember what it is.
But it's great, very eventful. They're on all the time. Like literally, they're on 24/7.
Yeah,
a lot of major events are taking place at 2:30 in the morning,
right.
Eastern time. A lot of the hockey games, big time hockey games, are taking place at like 11:30 p.m., which is always fun to watch if you want to watch prime time games.
Yep.
But the United States still looking for their first gold medal. We almost saw that yesterday with Nathan Chen in figure skating, but I mean,
that was only the first round, I think. So
yeah, right.
But Nathan Chen as I watched it was absolutely incredible, so beautiful. He broke all the records. He scored the highest short program score ever put down in the record books, 113.97, and he heads into the free skate, which is coming up, I believe, tomorrow, or at least tomorrow in Beijing, maybe Thursday for us. But he is in the free skate first place, and it was an absolutely gorgeous run. It was just everything went perfect, and I love his story because it was 4 years ago when he had the chance to get the gold, but then
he made a couple of crucial mistakes and fell short, and he used that as motivation going into this Olympics. And with a score of 113.97, breaking world records or at least Olympic records, that's insane numbers from him, and that's just round one.
Right.
So we don't know what he's going to do in the later rounds. That's figure skating. We're still looking. We're watching skiing all the time at our house. Alpine. We're looking at the ski jump, which I think is absolutely insane. They're literally going X amount of kilometers per hour and then jumping, and then they have to somehow land it. Like, that is not for me. If anyone's watching that out there.
If you're scared of heights, it's definitely not one to pursue.
That's been going at a rapid pace. I think a big highlight for the United States as a whole is Shaun White on his farewell tour. We're going to be seeing his 5th Olympic Games. He's won Olympics at 3 out of his last 4. Had a very disappointing 2014 at Sochi where he didn't even qualify for a gold. But 2006 as a 19-year-old won a gold medal. 2010 in Vancouver won a gold medal, and 2018 broke a world record.
Yep.
And we can now all we have to do is sit back and watch what he's going to do in 2022. If you follow him on social media, he still has it as a 36-year-old Shaun White. He's practicing the half pipe. That's his thing. And do you think he can get that 4th gold medal in his 5th Olympic appearance?
I mean, it's Shaun White, so anything's possible. I think he can do it. I really hope he can do it, especially since he announced his retirement after this games. So fingers crossed. Go Shaun White. I believe in you. We believe in you. You got this.
If there's anybody that will help out the United States to win their first gold medal, please let it be Shaun White.
Right.
Or the women's hockey team. Did you see the Switzerland and United States game a couple nights ago where the USA won that game 8-0. 8 goals, and Switzerland only had 8 shots on net. So Switzerland had the same amount of shots as the United States did in goals. I mean, that was total domination. Obviously lost to Canada. That was something that we're not surprised by at all. We always see Canada ruining our hopes and dreams. Especially, I even go back to 2010 all the time with Sidney Crosby scoring on Ryan Miller. That was a heartbreaker.
Right.
But
you know
what are you going to do? I think if anyone's going to win the gold, it's got to be Shaun White. And currently, right now, the Russian Russian Olympic Committee has the most total medals, and Norway is getting up there too. New Zealand has a gold medal, so it's all crazy right now. We're just waiting for USA to get on the map. So thank you for watching our first episode of the new semester of Sports Hour. I'm Trevor Howard. That's Sara Gordon. We will see you same time, same place next week right here at Hendricks Hall Be there and be square. We'll see you next week.